Welcome back to Yes, I'm Adopted, Don't Make It Weird. Today we're going to be talking about what it feels like for adoptees to have missing or difficult information. We would love to hear you guys' thoughts, so chime in the discussion down below. We're super excited to be talking about this very, very difficult topic. Are we excited?
I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're excited.
Let's use the term excited.
Yeah. This
not?
is a hard one, right?
Okay.
Okay, you start. Let's go for it.
Let's address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
All right. I accidentally shaved off my goatee.
I wasn't going to say anything. I wanted to see if the people would notice. Okay, now you gotta tell the story, though. You gotta tell the story.
Okay, so I thought I have a clipper. I thought the guard was on. I set the thing. I went to go, and then I was just missing this front part in the middle of my facial hair. And then I had about 15 seconds of absolute self-loathing, where I was like, what kind of horrible person are you that you can't even check your stupid thing? But mostly that's because I literally haven't seen my own chin in 17 years.
Yep.
So, you're welcome. I will kill you.
So, missing or difficult?
Missing or difficult facial hair. Here it is.
Yep.
It's all of those things. It's
Yeah.
missing and difficult. This is one of the most pervasive issues politically for adoptees.
Yes.
Is talking about missing information or difficult information. And it has a lot more to do with just the idea of really honesty than anything else, right? And adoptees just really have difficulties with things that are not upfront and honest, even if they're hard. But specifically for a lot of domestic adoptees during the baby scoop era, which is a thing, right? The missing information or difficult information thing is really is like a political issue because of closed adoptions and closed records, right? So there's stuff that we really don't deal with as Koreans necessarily, not on the same political level, where those adoptees from that time period are not allowed to look at their original birth certificate,
right?
Aren't allowed to look at any of their original documents or have any sort of identifying family information.
Yeah.
We also don't really have access to that, but that's just because the record keeping during the 80s in Korea was terrible.
Terrible! Come on, guys, get your crap together.
So
where's my mama? She's watching this video after she liked, commented, shared, and subscribed. Thanks, Mom.
Buy some merch. So, as far as we're concerned, the story that we've told before, really, as far as missing information, has usually had to do kind of with your medical stuff,
history.
right?
You're right. That's the biggest thing. For me as an adoptee was my medical history. I was in and out of hospitals and doctors. And the first question they always asked, well, let's talk about your family medical history. I'm like, well, Doc, you see, it's going to be a real short conversation.
See those white people over there?
Yeah.
That's my family.
That's them. We don't share any DNA. Now what, smart guy? That's how it always was for me, though. It was
time and space travel to Korea and get that would be really helpful.
Oh my gosh, it would be great if people would just leave me alone.
Right.
And the other one that we always talk about too is the family tree.
Right.
The missing information there.
I've been reading a lot of these books about parenting recently, and parenting adoptees specifically, just because that's so much of our audience, and I kind of want to have input for that.
You need to know.
Yeah, right? What are they telling you guys? And one of the themes that I think was in the Connected Child and some of these other ones are just parenting and adoption classes teach parents how to be ready to parent, but they're not necessarily pointing out empathy, right? So nobody's really asking a lot of the adoptive parents or people that are involved with adoptees to actually fill those shoes. What would that feel like? What would it actually feel like to be oh, well, I don't have this information. If you're part of genetically connected to your family, some basic information.
Yeah.
You have your my kids. Both of my kids have my eyes. Their eyes are dark as the night, and also slanty, and they look like me, right? In that regard, but I don't know where that came from,
right?
And I'm not able to go back, and my wife and her family, she's got significant, family resemblance and to members of her family, but that's just nothing we've ever had. And so, as somebody that's not had that's had the experience of of growing up with their biological family, to just put yourself in those shoes for a minute, and just how off-putting would it be to suddenly wake up and realize, oh, I don't have any of these traits, or
Yeah.
everything I've been told up to
So
this point
different.
is wrong.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a big one for people.
So,
And
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of controversy, I guess, let's put it that way, around when, like adoptees bringing up a lot of the stuff to their adopted parent. The adopted parent gets upset because they're like, well, am I not good enough for you in order, as a parent? Why do you have to go and search this stuff out?
Join us in 2 weeks when we talk about the adoptee hurdle of loyalty.
Whoo, that's a fun one to deal with. Because seriously, as an adoptee, like that's a big trigger for a lot of people out there, right?
Right.
Like they're afraid to talk to their parents about this stuff because, they don't want to make them feel bad or anything. And there's a lot of adoptive parents out there that get upset and angry whenever you talk about this. But we want to feel like we belong to something. We want to feel like we're a part of something. And to have this missing information, we're now trying to connect to something that doesn't exist. And some people are put off by that, really.
Right. Or you'll take any little thing that you can get, right?
Yeah.
Like, as an adult now, like I've read through my file. We talk about, my parents' file on me during the home study and all that kind of stuff. And to look at that today, I hold on to little pieces that I just never knew that I had.
Right.
I always had access to this stuff, and I just never asked about it, or and just to know that there's little things that are going on there. Like my birth family was short, so I'm like, oh, thank goodness.
I'm not just weird.
Like it's part of my makeup. It's part of where I come from. There's stuff that's minimal, but that is there, and we hold so tightly to those things. There's also like this pervasive issue in a lot of adoption communities where we're starting to learn now that a lot of the information we have is false, and
which is terrifying.
like that sucks.
Holy cow!
That's like I hold so tightly to those little scraps of information that I have.
Right.
Even something as basic as like your birthday.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a big one right now.
There's every possibility that my birthday on my document is inaccurate or fraudulent. Yep. And if I were to find out that's true, like that's kind of a fundamental part of who we are as humans.
No, exactly. Just something so simple as that. It could be wrong.
And what are you supposed to do in that scenario?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how am I supposed to deal with that?
Right.
And I don't envy me for having to think through those things.
I don't envy you either.
Thank you.
I have my own crap to deal with, apparently. My birthday might not be what my birthday is.
Sorry. Did you just find out about that?
Yeah. That's such a huge thing, though. Like, the more information, or the more that adoption has come into light, the more that we're finding out that things could be completely wrong.
Right.
What do you do with that? How in the world are you supposed to figure out your identity if you don't even know where you came from? Like, for me, like, one of the things that I was kind of connected with is my Korean last name is Kim.
Right.
Which is like, the Smith of America. Right. And so I was like, okay, so I could have a massive family out there. And, so I would start to fantasize what it would look like until I found out that the Korean dictator's last name is also Kim. And then it weirded me out, and I was like, oh no, am I from North Korea? Yeah. But, that's the kind of information, like, that's all I had to go off of for the longest time. And then, like, once I got older and I asked my parents for the home study and all the information, I found out that, my birth mom, she was in college during the time when, when I was born. And that's, like, for me, it's weird because I don't like the idea of college.
Yeah.
Or education that much. We'll talk about that later. But, it's like, okay, so was she really smart? I consider myself fairly intelligent.
Right.
And I've had to learn a lot of these skills on my own, and I've had to, learn to be teachable and all this stuff. So I consider myself fairly intelligent. Was my birth mother intelligent?
Right.
Was there a reason why she was in college? Did she go on to become something after college was over.
Right.
And it's real interesting to think about now because like I just don't know.
Right.
The information's not there. I can't ask her unless I find her. But the research that I've done, either the name on my birth certificate is spelled incorrectly,
Mm-hmm.
or this tiny little village does not exist anymore.
Right.
I can't find it. And it could be either one of those, quite honestly.
Right.
So it's real it's real difficult sometimes if you're not prepared to handle that type of information where you're like, I don't know anything about it and I could possibly never know anything.
Sure. Yeah. In Korean, the G and the K are, when they translate into English, are interchangeable.
Yeah.
So it's funny because some of my documents say, like my last name is Ku in Korean, but some of them say Gu.
Gu.
But I went with K because it sounds better to me. But like even just these little differences are so interesting to hold on to, and it's interesting how tightly we hold on to those things and where they kind of lead the thoughts, and because
Right.
for somebody that has access to that history, they just answer the question.
Yeah.
Right. Like I look at all I have for my birth family's history is a name, an age, which she was 24,
Yep.
and some middle school. So
Some middle school.
somewhere she had done some middle school, and she was I was birthed in like a women's home someplace or whatever.
Right.
Like that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And and at the same time I look at that and I'm like, okay, I'm a college graduate. I've got my own business. I'm doing okay. I read a lot. Like I'm pretty
Right.
intelligent, I think. And I look at that piece of paper. I'm like, is that who I'm supposed to be?
Right.
Right? Is that really
Yeah.
who I am? Who am I actually? And that's kind of the question that all of these missing pieces lead to, is to say, living with this constant stress of just, I don't know where I came from or how I got here.
Yep.
Right? Like we know as adults that we're supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And that we've accepted all of the hardships that have come therein. But there's still that missing, lingering, kind of back of the mind thing. We were talking about this earlier. Like, okay, imagine when you're driving like a long distance
Yup.
and you arrive at your destination and have no conscious memory of how you got there.
Where did
Right?
I go?
Like you've been driving for a while and you got there and you're like, oh,
It's so
I
terrifying.
totally just zoned out all that. Like, good thing I made it,
Right.
right? But it's very disconcerting when that happens. But
horrible.
to some degree, that's the whole adoptee experience
Yes.
of just, I got here and I'm safe and I'm good, but
What happened?
how did this happen? And to have that just be an underlying part of my upbringing or part
Yeah.
of how I think is, I mean, hopefully that gives a little bit of clarity to what it's like to just not have all the information,
Right.
to not have everything.
The other side of this too, like we were talking about this earlier, the concept of legacy came up because like not knowing my family history was really hard on me. My kid is going to go through half of that at least now. Like mom's side, she's got that right, but dad's side, she doesn't know.
Right.
Like, in is the stuff that I was diagnosed with, is it genetic? Is it whatever? I don't know. And so there's a lot of uncertainty that goes along with just being a parent and trying to deal with this upcoming information. Like, as an adoptee, like, not knowing was so difficult.
Right.
But I think as a parent, not knowing is even more terrifying
Sure.
to me. Because I don't want my kid to go through the stuff that I went through. I want her life to be better than my life was. And so, trying to fill in all these gaps and trying to figure this out, it's terrifying sometimes. But what I'm learning to do is I'm learning to take the pieces of me that were instilled by my adoptive family. My parents were awesome. My parents still are awesome. Like, they are constantly like pouring into me and they love the mess out of my kid. And taking those pieces and then saying, okay, this is what I like and this is what I want to pass on. And then figuring out the things from me personally, because my genetic heritage, for all intents and purposes, starts now.
Sure.
Like, there's no past that I know of, and so it starts now. And what do I want my line, I guess, what do I want my family line to look like down the road?
Sure.
Do I want them to be smart and intelligent? Do I want them to be self-confident? Do I want them to have these different traits? And so claiming that now and saying this is who we are as a lineage,
Mm-hmm.
and instilling that into my kid is super interesting to me right now.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that parents as a whole, adoptive or not, like they don't think about that type of stuff. But more so as an adoptee, I have to think about it. I have to think about this stuff if I'm going to be a parent and I'm going to pass on who I am.
Right. Like it's honestly, there's a level of it where it's really difficult in the moment to deal with, that you just don't know stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a level of, I think, growth and maturity where we accept that.
Yeah.
And as we move forward, it's honestly kind of freeing now to be like, well, then I get to decide.
Right.
Like, it's up to me to decide and determine the fate of my family line.
Yeah.
Like, moving forward, we're going to be who I decide we're going to be.
Yeah.
And that's just how it's going to be, you know? And that's really changed how we've dealt with stuff as adults and as adoptees as we've grown. Now, I know somebody's going to ask, because that's, I mean, the demographic that watches us, you know, ask away. But so parents, just, I know you're probably going to ask, so what do we do, right? And the honest answer to that is tell the truth.
Yes.
And if the truth is that you don't know, then your answer is I don't know. I will say this, as an adult today that is able to handle so many of these really hard, difficult, complex questions, I very specifically remember my mom asking me if I wanted to search for my birth family. I remember her asking me if I had any questions about that. And I didn't at the time because I was a teenager. I wanted nothing to do with anything, right?
Yep.
And
just let me live my life.
Why are you intruding into my but today, now, the fact that both of my parents were willing not only to address the issues, but also to willing to help me find answers if I wanted to, has been really
That's big.
eye-opening and freeing for me to say that now I can.
Yeah.
And I feel really good about moving forward into who I am and moving forward into finding the answers I need to find, because I have that background, I have that basis of my parents who were so supportive in every endeavor.
Yep.
But in specifically helping me find answers that they knew that I needed.
Yep.
So your answer may be I don't know, but it should also be I'll help you find out.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about other issues that pertain to all of this as we go on in the next couple of weeks here.
Yeah, so that's it for today's discussion. Please let us know your guys' thoughts down below. Like, adoptees, we want to be able to hear from you. Has this been your kind of mindset, you know, for the last however many years you've been adopted for? Like, we would love to be able to hear that information and continue the discussion going on. So make sure you guys check out the group. We have like 500 members in our own little private group right now, which is super cool because the conversation continues there from these videos. People ask a lot of questions, and we got a good group of people. So make sure you guys go check out that. The link is going to be in the description. We also got our Instagram.
We're on the Instagram.
We're going to be doing a live Facebook event with White Sugar, Brown Sugar by Rachel Garlinghouse. Like, she's got this awesome following of people on her Facebook and Instagram, and she's an adoptive mom herself, and she has a lot of really great insight and a lot of great resources. So we're going to be talking to her tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So make sure you guys tune in for that. We will have more information the day of as it comes out for you guys to be able to go check out. And as always, say it, Devo. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Devo, we say this every week.
Do we say that every
Devo,
week?
you say this every week. Say it. Say it to the people.
Like, comment, subscribe, and share. And let everybody you know that you think needs to see this, that we're here, and show it to them.
That was a super awkward way of putting it.
We also have cool stuff coming out, so thank you those of you that have supported, like the logo and the other interesting things that we've shown up with this couple of weeks. And we're going to be showing up with some merch here soon. We're going to be posting a lot of our speaking dates and engagements as they come up. And
yeah, I've gotten more.
Yeah, which has been really cool. And if there's anything that we can do for you,
don't ask. We're too busy.
Yeah, we have a lot going on.
Gosh. Stop being needy.
Don't feel so abandoned, though.
No, I'll feel abandoned.